Alright, here we are. This is my HoneyBee King 2. I've got a CNC aluminum head upgrade, tail upgrade over here. Everything else is pretty much stock servos. I've got this 3900 brushless motor with a 11 tooth pinion on here. Still using the same stock battery, Velcro strap. I've got the battery extended out here with a zip tie to keep it from slipping all the way to the back. It sticks about that far out, so I weight it towards the nose a little bit more. Here's my antenna right around here. Thought it was a fancy little thing. I saw somebody else do that. Check that out. Alright, now after every flight with this aluminum head here, I've had a problem with these screws right here that hold the fly bar on this pivot right here interacting with these arms right here, and they've actually rub and scrub against it sometimes. One thing I've noticed is it's because this purple piece right here, this arm, is just slid onto this bearing here, and it will slide down this way, and it will actually impact that screw as it moves, as the fly bar turns. So one thing to check, make sure you just kind of snug on it and pull it towards the end of the screw like that every time. Do both sides. And if you need to, I had to on one of my screws. I filed it down, rounded it off, made it more smooth and flat. Alright, another thing you want to check, every single one of these silver balls, they screw in with the same Allen wrench that is standard, comes stock with the HoneyBee. Some of these have slipped out, have come undone during the course of flight a few times, and you just have to go through. I took thread lock and undid the entire head and reassembled it all with thread lock. And you want to check and make sure every single one of these balls is nice and snug, and every single link that is on the ball is nice and snug on the ball and not too far in the ball, not slipping off, and not crooked on the ball. You make sure they're all straight and even and ready for movement. You also want to check and make sure that, of course, your swash plate is level. I've done some fiddling with my servos, so my swash plate isn't level right now. But you also want to check, of course, blade pitch. You want to check make sure everything's free, make sure there's no unusual wear, make sure your blades are nice and tight. Alright, make sure there's no excess play anywhere on the entire head or over here on the tail. Make sure there's no play back and forth on this. Check all of these screws. I've had these screws back out on me one or two times. And check this, try to twist it a little bit, make sure it's still nice and tight, make sure it's still lined up at a right angle to the lined up parallel with the horizon, and make sure that everything moves freely. See, I've made this modification back here because some people use the T-Rex slider, because obviously when the tail tries to pull in all the way, the balls move closer to one another. So I've actually honed out the back. I don't know if you can see it. I've honed out the back here so the heads become recessed in this piece of plastic, and I actually made a little spacer, this little red spacer here, so I can choke up on the screw, so I have a little bit of screw play coming out the back, but it's still nice and snug on it. It won't sink in or come out any further than it's actually moving. It'll just move left and right a little bit, so it allows it to close in and get closer to one another or get further apart. You want to check, make sure everything here, like I said, is these sometimes will come, go different angles, and that's probably alright. I haven't found any problems with that. You want to make sure that your tail servo here is still nice and snug on here. Just don't try too hard, but just give it a little twist, and if it feels loose at all, alright, give this a little linkage, a little tug. Make sure it's nice and taut all the way down here. Make sure these screws, all these screws, are still nice and taut down here right where you need them set. Check the belt for play. Make sure there's not too much play. If it's slipping off the tooth, you want to check there, and you want to check right in there. Make sure that it's not slipped off those gears right there. You also want to check this motor. You want to check your motor and your pinion and make sure they haven't slipped apart. Make sure they're still meshing very well. Let's see. You want to make sure there's no scrubbing. Sometimes I've got this back out so you can see. I've got this black collar here that is stock instead of using the silver collar with a little snug screw in it. And I've got the screw that still goes through the entire main shaft here, which I find actually fits better because these legs here on the washout are longer and they'll support more movement on the washout base. I had a problem with the CNC matching washout collar. Here the legs were too short and this washout base would slip off the legs and it wouldn't be able to go back up. It wouldn't. I would lose collective adjustment. You also want to check, obviously, when you start it up, make sure none of your servos are slipping. Make sure. I have a problem. See, I've got this headlock gyro here. This generic GY 400. It's probably a rip-off of a Futaba, exactly. My tail will creep sometimes left and right with my stock E-Sky transmitter, and so I have to flip the standard rate off to reset it in center and set my trim a little bit and flip the headlock back on and make sure it's not creeping. It'll slowly creep one way and I'll have to adjust it so it stops and flip it and reset it. So I'm gonna try to I'm gonna do all my pre-flight checks. Oh yeah, one more thing about this CNC head here. When you put the original, I don't have the CNC. I forget exactly this term, but this piece right here. I don't have the CNC matching piece here. So this piece of the washout base, this washout arm right here, will actually hit this. So what I did is I just took it and bent this back just enough, so I still have plenty of arm here, plenty of room for the arm to come out and maintain stabilization, but it keeps it from hitting it, so I don't want to do any undue damage to my head here. And got my training kit on. It's about my 6th or 7th flight here. I'm trying to hover indoors for a little bit and see what I got.